We are joined now by Alan Sullivan, who along with Joe Cox has authored Voice of the Wildcats, Claude Sullivan and the Rise of Modern Sportscasting. Thank you for being here.
Well, thank you, Barbara, for inviting me. I'm glad to
And
be
before
here.
we got started, you're saying by trade you're an architect.
I am, and my brother was a sportscaster for ESPN for 5 years. He was at University of Louisville for 8 years, and somehow I became the one to archive and get the book together on our father's career.
We talked earlier with Mary Ellen Miller, whose husband was a famous author and poet, and she too has done something similar. She talked about how difficult it was when it's a labor of love like this, when there's
Yes.
not that detachment. Talk a little bit about that.
Well, it is difficult. There was a period of my life where I worked with my father on the broadcast back in the 60s, and we had our own family business, Sullivan Enterprises, so I was very close to it. He died at the age of 42 of lung cancer, and I was 16 at the time, and that was rough, but after all these years, there was so much archives and audio broadcasts, photographs, programs, memorabilia that it just made a natural transition to a book. And the ebook version, I might add, was also a labor of love because that was the documented archives at the University of Kentucky. And there's 28 embedded audio clips in the ebook, which was a first for University Press and of course for me as well. So.
And when you hear to this day, when you
Yeah.
hear that voice, your dad's voice, same emotions, same kind of
Well,
feeling?
it brings back memories, and they're great memories because other people share them, and until they were published recently, a lot of people had never heard them. So it's getting out in the public. They're accessible online through the University of Kentucky Digital Archives. So it's a great volume of his work, which is over 470 recordings.
Over 470
Yeah.
recordings.
That includes overseas travels to Russia behind the Iron Curtain in 1956 and 7. That was a milestone. He had a lot of firsts as a broadcaster and a young broadcaster. He started at 17 right out of high school.
It was a different world then.
It was an interesting career in a different world. Nothing was digital, and he pioneered a lot of our mobile technology with mobile units, both in his car and at the radio station. Was program director of the radio station as well as sports director. So then he, towards the end of his career, he became the broadcaster for the Cincinnati Reds, and that was kind of one of his life ambitions, was to be a national sportscaster. And unfortunately, it was there that he got cancer, and he only did that job for 4 years. So he was just on his rise.
So pioneering in so many ways, and a lot of that is, of course, being in that place at that time.
Right.
And yet he took advantage, in a good way, of making it a better place, sportscasting.
Well, not only sportscasting, he remained a journalist through his career, as evidenced by his overseas travels. He sent back a tape every 2 or 3 days by mail, and on his sports show they did Claude Sullivan from the Kremlin in Russia, or Claude Sullivan from the Middle East. He did the 1960 Olympics in Rome, Italy. So he was really ambitious to do as much as he could for sportscasting as well as just being a journalist. He always became a reporter and stayed one.
He died, unfortunately, very young.
Yes.
And when you look back at that, and as you were putting this together,
Right.
Claude Sullivan and the Rise of Modern Sportscasting, do you ever wonder, what if, had he lived longer, would he still be doing this crazy business?
Oh, absolutely. That's one of the things we're left with, I think, when you read the book is, what would he have accomplished if he had broadcast another 20 years? I think he would have done professional football, probably golf, because golf was not really a sport that was announced at the time. And yeah, we can only kind of wonder what he would have done, but he definitely was on the cutting edge of what was going on in his day. So.
And we appreciate the opportunity to live that through the book,
Yeah.
Voice of the Wildcats, Claude Sullivan and the Rise of Modern Sportscasting. Thank you so
Barbara.
much, Alan
Appreciate it.
Sullivan. Appreciate it.